Hi and welcome back. I'm Michael Smith with Teach Construction, and this is another episode of Teach Talks. So we're doing a series of interviews with teachers from across the country, and today is no different. Well, it is a little bit different because our guest today, Anne-Marie, has more challenges than most of us when she's teaching or developing the next generation of construction workforce. So instead of me jumping into it and talking about it, let's watch the video. But I do want to say one thing. By the time you're finished with this video, I bet you're going to be just as impressed with Anne-Marie as I am and what she's overcome. So let's take a look. So first of all, thank you for taking the time to come in and chat with us about what you're doing in Pottstown. I got it right. Pottstown, Pennsylvania?
Pottstown, Pennsylvania.
Okay. So for my first question, where is Pottstown?
So Pottstown is about an hour from Philadelphia. It's a pretty small school district. We have... Let's see, we've got 3 elementary schools, a middle school, and the high school. My class specifically, for the one that we're utilizing this program with, has about 15 kids in it.
Okay.
So
let's start right off and talk about, I was mentioning earlier, I use your story all the time, and we did a live show on last Friday that I know you had a snowstorm and you couldn't join us with, but I use your story all the time, and I love it, and I think you've just been kicking ass. So go ahead and start from the beginning. So you're a teacher, you're a licensed teacher.
I am.
So you've been asked to do what?
So I am a pre-K to 4 licensed teacher. And typically I work at one of the elementary schools in Pottstown. And literally the day before school started, I got an email basically asking if I'd be willing to do the high school. And I'm like, okay, I guess they're just having me substitute in the high school for the day. With being to one building, normally I just jump around in different classrooms, but this was the first time they were having me do the high school. We're obviously in a different climate right now with the pandemic going on, and so we're just all trying to be the best teamwork as possible and go where we're needed. So I was told that there was a spot in construction. So I'm like, construction? What? Yeah, we'll have a meeting, real brave, 8 o'clock in the morning. Class starts at 9 in the morning, mind you. We'll get you all squared away. And I'm like, oh, okay. All right. You know, I'm pre-K to 4 certified, right? So they're like, yeah, we know. So I get on, and I'm working with the director of the CTE programs that are
David, right?
Yes. Okay. He's awesome, by the way.
Yeah, he is. I enjoy working with him.
Yeah, he is. So he gives me the rundown. He's like, listen, very last minute, construction teacher decided that he's not going to be able to teach this program. School starts in an hour. Here's what we're going to have you start off doing. Here's a couple of certifications that the kids need to get anyway. We'll get the ball rolling and go from there. By the end of the week, I'm told, well, we're not finding anyone just yet. And it seems like you're going to be here longer than just the one day. At that point, I'm in there for 5 days. And they're like, we're just going to keep going with you. You've got a really good rapport with the kids. We'll see what goes on. So we got through 2 other certification programs, mainly OSHA because it's big on safety. And we got those programs done, and we were looking to see what to do next, which is when we found you guys. And it just so happened to be, it correlated when we got the okay to do hybrid. Oh. And what that means is that we have half the kids doing virtual as the other half are live. And we've been doing that 5 days on and then switch. So then they have 5 days off. So the kids that were virtual become in person. And we have about 5 kids at a time coming in with this switch. And then we have a few other students that parents didn't think that it was the best choice to go in. So we have them doing all virtual.
Now, before I get to the complexities of having 2 different cohorts of students at 5 days on, 5 days off, you had another unique situation where you had somebody from facilities department who volunteered to do hands-on exercises with students in a kind of a hybrid lab setting, right?
Right. So as I said before, I'm pre-K to 4. My knowledge of construction is probably the difference between a Phillips and a flathead screwdriver.
More than a lot.
So definitely it's been an experience trying to learn the different aspects of what I'm teaching them. And I've had to teach myself before I can teach the kids. So we did have a paraprofessional that agreed to come in with my kids. He's basically there making sure that I am teaching them the right way so that we don't lose any fingers. But he's been great. It is definitely been a challenge trying to coordinate, not only do I have to coordinate what I'm doing virtually and in person and making sure that it matches up with the timeline, I now also have to do this with another person. And it's every day for 2 sets of kids. So it's definitely a balancing act.
Right. Well, that's the tough part. So you're not only entering in a new area where you weren't a subject matter expert, but you did say, we could give props to your husband. Your husband's in somewhat of has some construction skills. So you ask him at night when you're watching a lesson.
He doesn't do anything with it, which is funny, but he actually is he graduated with an architectural design degree.
Okay. So you have some subject matter experts at home that you.
Oh yeah. Oh, it was funny. You have a section for plan rating. Mm-hmm. And you were talking about like the different tools. I'm like, I don't even know what this is. He's like, hold on, I've got one. And he's sitting there at night teaching me how to read it. And then
probably an architect scale. Is that
the architect scale. So he's teaching me the different tools and what they're called and how it works and what each side does. And I'm just like, hold on, taking my notes like as if I'm the student. It's great.
It's tough enough teaching young people construction and even older people. It's tough enough then doing that during a pandemic, but hearing the challenges that you've done, and every time we talk, you've got a smile on your face about it. You're willing to say, look, this is what we're doing. This is what we've got. And hey, I'll learn something before I have to teach my students. It's so refreshing to see. We did one other unique thing with you guys. So we did a live class, and we haven't chatted much since we did that. So what we did to set the stage is the same studio we used to film all of our stuff in, we could set up for a live class. I'm in my office right now, but I could just as easily be in our studio, which our studio, because of COVID right now, is built in the basement of my house, which, much to my wife's chagrin, has taken over the entire basement, and furniture is pushed into the corner. But you got to do what you got to do sometimes. But in any event, so we did that live session. Did it work for your students? Was it helpful at all?
It did. So like I said before, my kids are hybrid. So I've got half the kids on person, half the kids virtual, and then I have some students that don't even come in at all. It just wasn't available to them. But what was great about having that live class is I am not from this field. That is the biggest thing that I can say is I am not from this field. And like I said, I've had to teach myself. So through the whole program, I was like, all right, listen, we're going to kind of put that question over here and I will find that answer for you. So what we did was we actually did 2 classes technically with you guys as live, because what we did was we had a pre-class where we organized our thoughts and wanted to know, what could you guys show us? What do we want to know more? How can we expand on this? And then we had the actual live stream where you guys came in and answered those questions for us. So for me as a teacher, that was extremely valuable because it kind of gave me, we do KWL charts in school a lot. What do you know? What do you want to know? And what have you learned? So it gave me the opportunity to say, like, all right, what am I not clarifying for you? What is this program not clarifying for you? So what do I need to still find out for you? What have you known? What have you pulled from this? And then after getting clarifications, I can now say, all right, so this is what we've learned going forward. How can we apply this? And my students that came in person that Monday, they came in, they were like, that was a really good class. Like, I really appreciated that. I didn't understand this. And then being able to show it to me and talk to me was able to answer the question. It's not just a video that I'm watching. It's not just something I'm reading about. It's not me getting secondhand information from you and it's going back and forth while I get the answer from them. So they were able to get it in real time. And unfortunately with the other programs that we've been using, they don't have that aspect.
Right. So what we tried to do is we had a camera, and Joe was the teacher, obviously, for it. And we had a camera on him, and then also had one that was further panned out. Of course, I say that right now, and here I'm using hand gestures, and you can't see anything. So we had a camera right on Joe, and then we had one that was a wider screen. Now, I can't tell when I'm trying to produce it from behind the scenes. Did it come across that way? Did it look good? Was it helpful?
It looked great. As a matter of fact, we chatted about it a little bit at the end of the program that you guys almost had a professional setup back there. You had it where, he went from this screen over here and it was flawless. Like you would have almost thought for a second that it was pre-recorded, how flawless the transition was.
Right.
It wasn't. And it was very fluid conversation. Didn't have to, all right, hold on a second. Let me get this stuff prepped. It was, all right, here we go. Almost as if it was scripted. And it wasn't. In no way, shape, or form was anything scripted. But it had that professionalism to it that you would almost question it if you were watching it.
Well, good. That's what we want to have. We're not trying to be over the top. Even the videos we make, they're supposed to look real.
Yeah.
But also have a decent, polished quality to it. So that's good. I'm glad. Thanks for the feedback. But so, what kind of stuff would you used our learning portal a bunch? You used our content, and you were coming at it from a non-content expert perspective. What would you like to have seen that we have that we didn't have? That was a really poorly stated question. What should we develop that we don't have? What would make your life easier?
I think I would like to see more exercises instead of it being like quizzes, a little bit more open-ended so that I can go in and check things. So for example, the skills, the exercises, they were very well thought out. If you are familiar with the program, you will have seen the exercises at this point. And for example, there's this one where they have to build a box and then they have to take, the jigsaw and cut out shapes. Well, in order to even get to cutting out the shapes, you had to measure, you had to mark things up, you had to cut it, you had to build it, you had to use fasteners, lay down the board, draw the shape out, and then finally use your jigsaw skill. So I really like how that was built upon. But if you are someone who doesn't get to come in person, it's hard to show that exercise. So it's hard to show that you can measure. It's hard to show that you can mark and things like that. So I think what I would like to see is maybe something even as simple as, okay, go around your house with a ruler or a tape measure, and I want you to find something that is at least a foot long and tell me what it is and what's the exact measurement. All right, now I want you to go and I want you to measure, I don't know, a loaf of bread. Okay, now cut that loaf of bread and make it 5 inches instead of 10. I don't know.
I get it. But so you mean more exercises that could be done at home given our remote learning requirements and such.
Right. To show that you can measure it and then adjust it. So, I mean, not every student's going to have a reciprocating saw that they can cut into, but hey, we can cut a loaf of bread.
I would hope so.
This is what I come up with.
What kind of feedback have your students shared? Have they said, you were just sharing with us that you had a student that appreciated the fact that it was a video based versus them having to read a chapter. Have you heard any other feedback from students comparing what we've been providing to what they're doing in other classes? Has it been engaging? Are we hitting that mark? Are we too long, too short?
So they definitely said it's more engaging. What they do like about it is that, like I said before, if they need something specific, it is broken down really well. Like, exactly where to go if you need certain information. So, for example, you guys have paint. Your paint isn't just one section and then it's broken up into a few videos. You've got it broken up to, I think, 5 different sections. One's about like prepping your surface. Another one's about the type of paints you have, the types of brushes. And then even within those sections, there's subsections. So in like prepping your surface, that's like section 1, I think. In section 1, it's still broken up into like 3 more sections. And it's titled in a way that makes sense. It's not like, okay, intro to paint, boom, that's okay, we're just talking about introductions. No, this is caulking. We're talking specifically about caulking here. In this section, we're talking about primers. This section, we're talking about, the style of paint brushes and what their uses are. So it's very comprehensive. And I think that the kids are really enjoying that because when they go to take those quizzes and those tests, it makes more sense for them. They know where to find that. And it's not just boom, all at once. All right, now I'm overwhelmed.
Yes. And I just brought up on our screen the painting class. And we were talking earlier about your grade books, and the reason we have courses now that are smaller in content, unfortunately, means you have multiple grade books to look at, but is to do exactly what you just said, is to break up a course that might have site prep in it, and inside site prep we have different sections.
Right.
So here's a question I do have, and this is something we started doing. Some of your lessons, it's just an icon. So we call this a lesson icon.
Right.
And then you click on the link and you go to the video.
Right.
Some of them, we've started doing these, what we call little engagement videos. So it's a little video where, and I have mine on volume on mute, but it's Joe talking to a student right now saying, we're going to talk about taping and how important that is. So the intent is just as you as a teacher, where you're doing a preamble to going into a lesson, that's what this provides. That's one intent. The other goal is that, and we call them engagement videos for that very reason, is so hopefully a student sees it and it's got some personality to the online class versus just links.
Right.
Here's my question after all that. Does it work? Does this feel more engaging, or is this just annoying?
I think it kind of speaks to what we've said before, where different students have different needs. I think it's valuable to some students that they do require that little bit of an engagement. I think for other students, I just want to get into it students, it can be okay, all right, I might mute this, or I might skip this, or I'm going to scrub this. Right. I think we look to see, is it less than a minute or is it not less than a minute?
Oh yeah, I would imagine it's all based on time.
Yeah, I'm going to say it depends on the individual. Luckily, it is 2 separate videos, so that if I do have those students that are like, this is boring to me, I don't need this setup, I just want to get into it, tell me about it, they kind of can skip it. I don't encourage that, but they can.
Well, that content isn't there. It doesn't teach them anything.
Right.
It's not like there's something on there that's part of the quiz. It's just saying, hey, this is the section we're going into. This is important. It's like I said, it's the engagement. So but we never know if that is just noise or is it graphically or audibly valuable.
What I think about this program and about a lot of programs I've been seeing lately is the potential to tailor it to the students. So you have different student needs, you have different classroom needs. I believe we spoke before about how I really liked the vocabulary, and I really liked how there were different aspects. And someone was like, no teacher has ever brought that up to me before. Yep. And for me, that helps me teach. I can kind of see what the kids already know. It helps me actually kind of get to the root of what they're doing. Because if they don't understand the terminology, I think they get lost in my presentation. So where, a regular typical CTE program teacher might not think to do that, the elementary school teacher in me does.
Right.
That is my foundation. That is my building steps. And what I like about what you guys have is that my teacher resources that you guys always kind of have in the tab that's just for me, I can choose whether or not to share that on my screen when I'm teaching my class.
Right. So, and that's perfect lead in. That was really my next question here. From the teacher resources, do you use those presentations?
I do. And I mean, it depends on what it is. I mean, it really does depend on what it is. I will look at it and I might write down to myself specific slides, all right, this is something that I plan on talking about in my next class, or like if I'm doing live the next day and I know that I'm about to introduce this specific, like for example, saw. All right, I'm going to present the slide that talks about these parts. This is what I want them to know. And I kind of use that as my turn to teach, because you guys do a lot of the teaching for me in the sense of they're watching videos, you're providing them with quizzes. It gives me a sense of where they are, but it's still my responsibility to go over things a little bit in
100%. We're not trying to replace the teacher at all.
Right. So they allow me to get like different shots of things, and I'm not sitting there like, all right, I got to scrub to Mark 126 where he's showing this saw. No, I have a slide, I can pull it up, and we've made it very clear that I'm home and I am not a construction teacher. So a lot of this stuff I don't have. So, because can you imagine me sitting there holding up a table saw or something, saying, "All right, let's zoom in, come bring my computer."
You're not going to have every teacher do it the same way. We have some that use our PowerPoint or our G-slide presentations and quizzes and exercises
Excuse me.
and don't use videos, and that's absolutely fine. Or we have some that do it the other way around. We're really trying to just make sure we have resources so you can do your job well, which apparently you have been just kicking ass. So,
Thank you.
I
wonder.
Well, let me tell you this. When we did that live session together, and you gave us some of the questions, the student questions ahead of time, those questions were so far beyond where we anticipated your students were going to be. I mean, I thought I was going to get questions like, "What is a screwdriver?" or "Is a big screwdriver better than a little screwdriver?" And at that level, but we didn't. We got questions about very specific elements of the safety tools on a table saw, of a kickback arrestor. We had very specific questions about plan reading. You were clearly thinking ahead with your students and getting them to think critically. They had some fantastic questions.
I think with my group, especially the kids that I have, motivation and ownership is going to be what's important in a virtual world, because that's all we have right now. And if you don't use it now, you're not going to be able to succeed with it later, because this is what we're doing now. If you want this theory, if you want this hands-on experience, we need to be able to get down to it and understand it.
Right. Well, I think you've done an amazing job doing that.
Thank you.
And I'm sure your new teacher will do well, but we'll miss you working with the students. I'm sure your students will as well. So, Anne-Marie, I want to thank you for taking time. I know you've got your kids upstairs, and I'm sure they're not just fending for themselves. So you're going to have to leave somebody.
Yeah, my husband's up there with them.
But you enjoy your weekend, enjoy your holiday time coming up. I hope the family and everybody's able to stay safe, and
same to you.
Get ready for a busy next year for whatever class they put you in. Because
who knows? Maybe I'll be automotive.
Well, you look at it this way: you now have probably the name around town where you put a substitute in, was able to handle a construction class in a remote learning hybrid environment. I think they're going to just stick you anywhere now. So, well, Anne-Marie, you have a wonderful day, wonderful weekend, and very happy holidays for you.
Yes. Very happy holidays.
All right. Take care.
Thank you.